this video, we're going to cover Git and Github and see how we use it in the App Dev with Swift course. So let's jump in. All right, so this is the introduction to GitHub. First of all, I want to cover why we learn about Git and GitHub. One thing to jumps right out at the very beginning is that basically every computer science professional is going to be using Git and GitHub or GitLab or some form of cloud service, all based on Git. So this is prevalent throughout the industry, and it is something that everybody needs to learn at some point. And so we are going to use it in the App Dev with Swift course. It really is going to make your life easier as a programmer and make your code safer. So basically what I like to say is there's no more, hey, the dog ate my homework, so to speak. Basically, once you have all of your stuff in GitHub, everything is safe and sound, and you can always go back to previous work that you did, share it with others, and collaborate. And again, we'll take you through that in the slides coming up. And then finally, it's how you will submit all of your lab work. So in App Dev with Swift, almost all the labs that you have to work on, all the programming labs, will be distributed by your instructor through GitHub and GitHub Classroom. And then you'll work on your labs in your favorite IDE, and then you'll submit them back. And all of that process happens via Git and GitHub. So there's some important terms that we'll want to go through. Version control, which I'm going to discuss first. The Git and GitHub desktop and how those are used. We're going to discuss repositories and what those are. We're going to talk about various mechanisms that you work with Git, such as publish, clone, commit, and push and pull. So let me ask you this. Has this ever happened to you? So you're working on something, whether it be a book report, or in this case, I'm working on this recipe that we used for grilled cheese sandwiches, which we're using in some of our examples. And I start out the recipe and I'm working on it, and then I save it off, and then I want to create another revision of that recipe to add a few more things, or maybe I want to take some things out. And then I think, you know what, I think I've got this almost done, so I'm going to create another copy, which is my final copy. And the reason I'm doing it is I don't want to lose the other work that I've done, because I might want to go back to it. So I end up with a bunch of different versions like you see here. And basically, they all have different aspects of this recipe, and they're just scattered all over my computer, or they're all at least in a folder, but they're basically one file after another. And this is the thing that you sort of pull your hair out and you say, this really isn't a good way to do this. So Git offers a better way. So really, what do we want? What we want to do is we want to be able to take that recipe file, in this case, let's say it's a text file, and we want to be able to save it. And when we save it, we sort of create a version. So that's like version 1 of our first save of that file. And then as I make more changes and I save it again, I now save off version 2. And then I do it again, it's version 3. I do it once more, I make more changes, it's version 4. And then I make some more changes, and I have version 5. And so the same text file is saved off every time, but I have these versions that are keeping track of what it looked like at each point in time. And that's really what we're trying to get to with version control. So this is what we don't want, right? We don't want 5 different files, 6 different files, all with different names and so forth. We just want one file with version numbers for every version that we saved off. So that's the thumbs up. So the way we can do this is, first of all, we put our text file in a folder. It probably would have already been in a folder, but we want it to be alone in the folder or with other related things related to the recipe. Maybe it's diagrams or videos or other things that go with it. But the point is they're all in a folder. And what we want to do is we want to basically turn that folder into what we refer to in Git as a repository, and sometimes referred to in short as a repo. That is how we get version control going on a particular folder. So if you're on a Mac or a PC, you would be running GitHub Desktop. This will do this for you. And so we'll have another video to show you how to do it. This is just a conceptual video to kind of show the concepts. But basically, using GitHub Desktop, we would be able to create a repo out of the folder that we've already created. So we have the recipe.txt file that becomes under version control. So now it is a Git repo. And with a save and commit, we can create our first version, version 1. Now notice I did save/commit, and that's because although you conceptually can think about saving as committing, the term commit is what Git uses to actually create a version number. So you might save your file over and over and over and over again, but until you've committed it, you haven't snapped off a new version and you haven't created a new version number. So in this case, I'm using save and commit kind of the same way, but the reality is you can save and save and save, but then when you actually commit, you create a new version and you've created a snapshot in time for that file. So here, as an example, we have recipe.txt. It is in this folder, and this folder is marked as a repo, and here are all the versions associated with that file. Now, a repo could be on your computer, but that's potentially not necessarily safe all the time, because if your computer were stolen or you lost it or dropped it or the hard drive failed or whatever, you would lose your work. So now you'd be in the boat of saying, the dog ate my homework. So the reality is there's got to be another way to sort of create a backup, or to be able to put this in a central place where other folks could actually see and share the work that you're doing, or at least have it be a backup for you so that you're not reliant on everything being on your computer. So here we're showing the folder on the computer, and this is where GitHub comes in. So GitHub is a cloud service that understands Git, which is the repository and it's the version control system. So GitHub is the cloud service that really comes to the rescue here that's going to help us. So how does this work? Well, first of all, you'll have a repository on your computer and you will have committed a save. Basically, you will save your work and that will become version 1. Once you've done that, then you can publish your repository up to the cloud. And that's the only time you'll use publish. You'll publish up to the cloud for the first time, and that is going to create a duplicate repo in the cloud that matches what you have on your computer. Now, let's suppose you make new changes to your code, to your recipe, whatever document you're working on. You make some changes, you commit those, you're now at version 2. And let's say you do some more work the next day and you commit and you've got now up to version 3. So at that point, you may decide, I want to create a new backup of this. I want to get this up to the cloud in case something happens to my laptop. So you basically do a push. And when you do a push, it knows the repos are already there and it's taking those changes that you made on your laptop and pushing them up to the cloud. And it's not just pushing that one version, it's pushing all the versions that you went through to get to that version. So version 2, even though version 2 here didn't go up to the cloud, we didn't push that, we actually made another version, version 3, and that's when we pushed it. Both version 2 and 3 will get pushed. So everything will get caught up on the cloud. Then you can also have changes made on the cloud. So say, for example, you were away from your laptop, but you had access to the web. You could go in and make changes in GitHub to the same files and commit them, and they would commit to version 4 in this case, and then up to 5. And so you're up to the 5th version, you've made those changes, you're now back to your laptop. How do you get those changes back down to your laptop? That's with a pull. So you're pulling data from the cloud and putting it onto your laptop. And again, you're getting all of the versions that were created on the cloud side pulled down to your laptop. So after a pull or a push, everything is in sync on both sides. So repos can also start in the cloud. So in the case we just did, you created the repo initially on your laptop and you did a publish to send it up to the cloud. In this scenario, it's the reverse. So let's assume that a repo has magically occurred on the cloud side. And that's how your assignments will start out. You'll get assignments. Those assignments will be in your repo in the cloud, and you're going to want to get them down to your computer. So the way you do that is with a clone command. So you're cloning what is in the cloud down onto your laptop. So after that clone command is done, I have now the same version, the same folder, the same repo, all at the same state of what's in the cloud. Now, I can go along and make changes. So here I'm up to version 3, and I've committed that version to my repo locally. So now I want to get that up to the cloud. I do a push. So pushes are pushing things up to the cloud, pull are pulling things down from the cloud. So here we've pushed up to the cloud and we've pushed version 3. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that Git and GitHub work very well with the IDEs that you'll use in this course. So you may or may not use Replit, depending on the availability of Macs and other products that you would need to do a full app development. If you are using Replit, GitHub works perfectly with Replit. It also is the case you may be using Playgrounds. If you're using Playgrounds on a Mac, you'll be fine with GitHub as well. All right, so let's review the terms that we've gone through. First is version control. This is where we have a file that we can have under version control such that every change that is made, when we commit it, we can snapshot a new version so we could go back in time if we wanted to, but it's a great way to organize all of our work version after version after version rather than have just this morass of different files with different names and so forth, which is very unorganized and very hard to maintain. GitHub and GitHub Desktop, we talked about. GitHub is the cloud service, and GitHub Desktop is the app that runs on our computer, and Git is the version control itself. That's the underlying software. So we have GitHub in the cloud, and we have GitHub Desktop to do our work with Git on our laptop. We talked about a repository. That's that folder that becomes version controlled when Git is made aware of it and we say, okay, you're now a repo. So everything that we do in that folder is now something that we can commit and do version control on going forward. We've talked about publish. So publish is when you've created the repo on your laptop first, and now you want to get it up to the cloud. And you do that through a publish operation. Again, you would do that under GitHub Desktop. That will publish it up to the cloud. Clone is the reverse. That's saying that you've got a repo in the cloud that you want to pull down onto your laptop. That's through a cloning process called clone. Again, you do that through GitHub Desktop. And this is the primary way that you will get assignments assigned to you for your labs, is repos will sort of magically appear in your GitHub account. You will clone that repo down to your computer and you can work on it at that point. Now, committing, we talked about that. So you can save the file all you want and keep saving, which I always encourage you to do. But if you want to take a snapshot of where it is right now and say, you know what, this is good, this is a spot that I want to record in case I want to go back to it, you do a commit. And when you do a commit, it creates a version number, and now you can always revert back to that version if you ever needed to. And then finally, push and pull. So push is when, say, you've committed and now you want to send it up to the cloud, maybe for your instructor to review your work or just to do a backup, you do a push. If a change has been made on the cloud side of your repo and you want to get those changes down onto your laptop, you will do a pull. So that's the basics of Git and GitHub. Again, everybody uses it from a software engineering standpoint. It will be something that becomes completely automatic to you over time as you go through the course.